Hey there, Stampers, and welcome to another Step It Up video. This week, it's more of a traditional Step It Up. I won't be able to show you everything, but I'll talk you through all the details, because although this Step 1 card is very simple, the next two have a lot of details in them. I love this set, Lean On Me. I just think it's sweet and fun. So that's what I'm using. And my Step 3 card is cased. Carrie, I think her name is. I don't know her, but I love her stuff. And she did the Step 3 card in pinks. And so I borrowed from that and then created these other two cards. So this Step 1 card is very simple. And I will go through the coloring of the image and show you how I did that. Basically, this image is the same for all three cards. And the only detail I added here was this, using my matte pack, this really simple, nice design. So that's Step 1. Step 2, see, you can see it's the exact same image. The only thing I changed was on Step 1 I put the rhinestone on the image, and on 2 I put it here. And then this is Step 3. Now I had been wanting to make this card for myself just because I loved, she put so much detail into it, but I realized that not everybody wants to do that. And certainly not everyone has the time to do that. But I will talk you through how to do each of these. And we're going to start with painting the image. And I'm using watercolor paper. This is, I think, 2.5 by 2 1/4. I stamped it in StazOn Jet Black. I am using, and I would suggest that you use any color combination you like, but I really like anything that will go with this Marina Mist, even though it's hardly in the card. She did it in pink and the blue. It looked really good, so I went with pear because I love green. And so once you've stamped it in StazOn, and whatever your main color is, whatever you choose, that's what you're going to, use mostly in here. And I start with the darker bits, and then I just go back and fill in, and then you sort of get this naturally produced shading because of where you started and how you go back in. And doing her socks and her friend's shirt. Again, I go where I want it the darkest first, so where it would naturally be darker I go in, and then I come back and fill in and blend like so. I'm not going to do it perfectly, but I would probably come back in on each of these and give it just a little more shading, but not perfect. Then for her shirt, I diluted the pear so it was really light, and that simple. I used Blushing Bride for the skin tone. I used Marina Mist for the blue. Again, starting in the area where I want it darkest. And then going back and filling in. And the watercolor paper allows you to have really lovely color saturation. And it's really easy to work with. I use a dry aqua painter. The barrel's empty. And then I just dip, and it allows me to control how much moisture gets on the paper more easily than if it's in the barrel. So then I dilute the Marina Mist and do the upholstery of the chair. And then, so I'm not going to do the whole thing, but this will give you the main idea. I used Blushing Bride for the skin tone, and I used a little early espresso for the wood trim. Again, starting here where I want it darkest, and then just pulling out and not re-inking, just letting it fall lighter. The legs darkest, and then come back here and fill in. And then as a final touch, after I did the hair and the skin tones, I took a little crumb cake, diluted it, and just outlined the whole image with crumb cake. Really simple. You do have to make sure you have enough water so it flows. But if you start playing with the watercolor paper, I think you'll be really pleased with your results. There's not much of a learning curve. There's a little bit with how much water to use, because it does absorb water, obviously. But that's one of the things that makes it blendable. Anyway, so there we go with our image, and I hope that helps some of you want to try that technique. I told you what to do for number one. The last thing I did, I will say, on all of them, I took a sponge, I took the Pear Pizzazz ink, I took a sponge, and I just added this green tint to the edges, and I thought it was still too light, especially since it's being put on Pear Pizzazz. So after I sponged all the edges, I just dragged the edge along the pad, and it gives it this really nice, deep, intense color. And just play with it, you know. Less is more. You can always add more. And anyway, so it gives you this nice little detail. And the rest of this, the level 2 and the level 3, they're sponging. So here, on level 2, I just took, it's not layered, I embossed the card base in the tulip frame. I took Patterns Designer Series paper, and I cut it just to fit, just covering the tips of the tulips so it doesn't really look like tulips, and I sponged the edge to give it some definition. I used Pear Pizzazz seam binding ribbon, and I used this little punch, but you could use what you have, you know, play with it. And the jewelry tag, I used the scrap from the watercolor and the Tiny Tags Friends. But you can use what you have. If you don't have this punch, make a little tag, and I stuck it in with a glue dot. And I think it turned out really cute. I did bump this up with dimensionals. Now the step 3, instead of using the Designer Series paper stack, I just used another piece of cardstock, and I sponged it so it would look like a different tone. And then this one is still the same, but I sponged it heavily to really give it in all the way in. I used the flourish from Bliss, which was a celebration set, but use any flourish that you have. It's just to give a little detail. This is just a little loop of ribbon connecting these little bits, again with the tag and the rhinestone. This is actually a Certainly Celery. I found Certainly Celery, pear, and Old Olive sometimes can all be used together. They're in the same tonal family. And in this little stitching detail is just white baker's twine, and I took the Pear Pizzazz ink pad, and you can do this with the white ribbon too. And it'll get you inky fingers, but I just rolled it like this on the pad, and it picks up the ink very nicely. And then I just sort of rubbed it through so it wasn't so much. But there you go, and then you have your perfectly dyed to match baker's twine. Isn't that fun? It's messy, and not everyone will want to do it, which is why, you know, this isn't a step 2 or anything. That's a very detailed card, but I love her work, and she inspires me frequently. So I know this is very detailed this week, but this is the basis of it. If you can do this, you can play with the others. And it also shows you how much fun it is to go with one color scheme with a pop of another color. So, you know, if you like red, you could do it in red. If you like yellows, you could do it. Anything that will work with the Marina Mist will work in this kind of card. And you can change this too, but I'll give you an idea. Something really simple. This anyone can do, and it looks very detailed. And this does take a little more time. It took me a long time to do this, but I love the results. So I hope you'll be inspired to branch out and try something new. And even if you see something that you think will take a long time, you now have the skills to step it up or step it down. And I hope it's been helpful. Have a great week. See you next time. Bye.